Now, talking about, so after college, right, you played baseball and all that, you graduated, and training is just in your blood at this point. So talk a little bit about what it was like. What were your interests as far as staying fit and active? When did you find CrossFit, which is what we're going to talk about? I want to, since you do a lot of CrossFit coaching, I want to dive into some of the training concepts and fundamentals. But when did all of that kind of timeline wise come into play for you?
Right. So that initial introduction that we had talked about with the senior year was just like that twice a week through the fall. And then we would use it every summer through college. And then in the fall, I was more doing like just traditional strength work, not really doing CrossFit until maybe my senior year when I started doing like Metcons at our university's gym. And the gym I was at was pretty crazy. So the way that CrossFit used to be is like you divide it into regions. So we had Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And of the top 200 men in those three states and in the region, we had like 7 of those top 200. So we had a bunch of high level athletes. So I'm training with these guys in the off season, very much cherry picking workouts and like keeping up with them and even beating them in workouts. Again, cherry picking. I can't emphasize this enough, like only doing the thing I'm good at. And I'm like, oh man, if I'm doing this and I'm not even training CrossFit full time, imagine how good I'm going to be once that becomes a priority after baseball. So it was a natural transition directly into CrossFit and competitive CrossFit. And then after about 3 or 4 months, I was forced to face the reality that when I wasn't cherry picking workouts anymore, I was getting destroyed in a lot of the workouts. So I ended up hiring the guy who is my boss, Max Elhaj, as my CrossFit coach, and worked with him for a few years trying to progress into the sport with a fair amount of success. But there were some things that both he and I recognized, like now knowing what we know, this was 9 years ago, 8 years ago now, but knowing what we know now, there were a lot of things that we could have done differently that probably would have kept me a little bit safer and improved my ability to perform in the sport. But yeah, that's it was just straight in, like no off season, no break, just get after it.
Yes. And I'm glad that you had that, even though it wasn't like full time, like you said, just having those exposure throughout high school and every off season, I think that did help the transition. That was kind of like you're easing into it. And then when you did take up CrossFit full time after college, at least you had some type of base that you could build further off of.